Bit of a technical hitch there. Of course, we have no sound, but yes, as mentioned, that is what is playing out on the other end. Now we come back home where slow-moving but potentially catastrophic environmental crisis is unfolding in the Great Rift Valley as Lakes Baringo and Bogoria continue to rise to historic levels, bringing the two water bodies dangerously close to merging. Experts warn that such a convergence could trigger irreversible ecological damage and disrupt livelihoods for thousands of Lake Bogoria, a world-famous alkaline lake renowned for hosting an estimated 3 million flamingos. This story was produced by Ken Ruto and voiced by Faith Wangari.
A slow-moving but potentially catastrophic environmental crisis is unfolding in the Great Rift Valley in Lakes Baringo and Bogoria continue to rise to historic levels, bringing the two bodies dangerously close to merging. Experts warn that such a convergence could trigger irreversible ecological damage and distribute livelihoods for thousands of residents.
In 2020, the elevation was 1,000.01 or 02 approximately there, and then for Lake Bogoria. So Lake Bogoria is a bit higher, while Lake Baringo is 970 kilometers squared. So we had remained with an elevation of 0.07 for the two lakes to meet. If the two lakes will meet, we will have what is called an ecological disaster.
In Lake Bogoria, a world-famous alkaline lake renowned for hosting an estimated 3 million flamingos, the waters have burst the banks and are now flowing toward Lake Baringo. Entire villages, public institutions, and key infrastructures lie submerged beneath the expanding shoreline. The main entry gate to Lake Bogoria National Reserve is already half underwater, the third access point to be overtaken by the rising lake. Permanent buildings, a hospital, and a string of tourism facilities have also been swallowed, delivering a major blow to the local tourism industry.
Actually, Lake Bogoria has been hosting a lot of quite a number of flamingo. From the statistic, we've been having more, a good number, like almost over 1 million that flamingos that we've been having. Simply because Lake Bogoria actually is an alkaline and it's a deep lake, so there is a lot of food algae which is being generated. The reason why I was saying the main problem is landing points and where the flamingos can rest is because the lake has actually swelled up to the whole beam. So there is actually limited space in terms of where the flamingos can land.
At Loboi Center, panic and exhaustion hang thick in the air. Families are evacuating as quickly as they can, tearing down homes and salvaging whatever remains before the advancing waters reach the doorsteps. Daniel Kiprop, a carpenter, was found dismantling a home piece by piece as water surged closer.
So far mimi nimetoa manyumba karibu 40 something na bado naendelea kutoa. Sasa mahali watu wako sasa ni mahali center iko. Ma rental hakuna kuchenga, imekuwa ngumu kuchenga rentals. Upande ya Kerio huko imetoa watu wa village karibu 3.
Elder Joseph Kipteroy, who has already been displaced twice, described the experience as terrifying.
Usiku tunasikia maneno hapa inasema dudu hapa ndani. Hatuelewi kama hii lake inaweza kusink ama itakuwa namna gani, kwa sababu hatujawahi kusikia kitu kama hiyo. Hii maji ya ile lake ilikiform inaitwa Lake 94 imekutana na Baringo. Hata tunahofia hata inaweza enda kukutana na hiyo ya Baringo. Hii maji kifunga hapo, hii the whole sublocation wataenda wapi?
We know Loboi Center, for example, is nearly threatened, and perhaps we were saying if we are going to stop water from flowing to Lake Baringo, then we have to do it carefully. We need to have our scientists to study it properly so that we don't stop the water, which will go back again. So if the water will go back again, then that means Lake Bogoria Primary, Secondary School, and Loboi Primary School will get submerged because the waters come back again.
Lake Bogoria has been actually like around 34 kilometers square in terms of water coverage. The water mass body. But as we speak now, I think the satellite image gives us around 10 to 11 kilometers square increment, which has really gone beyond even the boundary of the lake. And there's a lot of impacts that has actually aroused in terms of infrastructure development, in terms of community displacement, and in terms of some development which was there.
Scientific research indicates that the two lakes are already connected beneath the surface. On the Lake Baringo side, Warden Jackson Comment reported that the rising levels have already been recorded for more than a decade.
We've been experiencing high water levels for approximately 15 years for now, I think since 2010. The lake was 174 kilometers squared by then, but it has kept on increasing until around 2020. When we had researchers from institutions of higher learning, Kenyatta University, Nairobi University, and other institutions from outside this country. So they have been measuring the impacts these two lakes for Bogoria and Baringo. And I think currently the lake is approximately 270 kilometers squared, approximately 270 kilometers squared. We've had an increase of another 117 kilometers squared, the water that we didn't have.
In 2020, the surface elevation of Lake Bogoria stood at 1,000.02 meters, leaving only 0.7 meters before the water spills into Lake Baringo.
Currently now we are staring on an ecological disaster because the two lakes, Bogoria and Baringo, somehow threatening to meet together. So currently we are looking at the potential mix-up of the two lakes. Lake Bogoria being a soda lake with a pH of 9.8 up to 10.6, while Lake Baringo is a freshwater lake. If the two lakes will meet, then we'll have an ecological disaster. Now we have fisheries, we have hippos, and we have communities depending on Lake Baringo for drinking.
The consequences of a merger would be profound. Lake Bogoria's extreme alkalinity is essential to the survival of flamingos, which feed on algae uniquely adapted to such conditions. Lake Baringo, meanwhile, supports freshwater species, aquatic vegetation, and an entirely different ecosystem. For communities living along the lake shores, the rising waters threaten schools, farms, homes, and livelihoods. With each passing days, residents are running out of ground, literally. As the lakes continue to swell, the threat on an environmental disaster continues more urgently. And while the crisis unfolds slowly, many fear that once the two lakes finally meet, the consequences may be impossible to reverse.